Cherry Grove High School was only a few stops away from Jacob's university. Sitting on the rickety bus, Jacob leaned his arm against the window and rested his head on his palm. His gaze fell on the Band-Aid on his elbow. He tore it off and felt around the spot to see if the wound was serious. The wound was no more than a little bump now. He was about to throw the used Band-Aid away, but he thought something and stopped midway. He thought that it might be weird to keep something like a used Band-Aid, but then he didn't want to throw away the only material thing he had to remember his moments with Sophie by. So he folded it up and kept it in his shirt pocket. Jacob got off the bus at the stop nearest to the high school and walked the rest of the way. As he approached the gate of the school, he noticed a lot of expensive cars lined up in the parking lot, indicating that a lot of the parents had arrived. Afraid of being late, Jacob also hurried toward the gate. However, a girl stopped him.
"Hey, we are conducting meetings today, and only parents can come in," she said.
"Yes, I know. I'm here for the meeting," Jacob said. The girl looked at him suspiciously and asked,
"Whose parent are you?"
He obviously didn't look like a senior student's parent. "Sophie is in her senior year. I'm here to represent her parents because they are unable to attend the meeting today," Jacob answered and handed her the note signed by Dracon. They had already anticipated this interruption.
"Oh, Sophie, okay."
The girl nodded after checking the note and letting Jacob in. The way the girl reacted to Sophie's name showed that she was a popular girl in her school. Of course she is popular. How could a pretty girl like her not be popular? Jacob thought as he walked past the girl. Cherry Grove High was one of the best schools in their city. The campus was very large and beautiful, with rockeries, modern architecture, a huge garden, and a music hall. It looked nothing less than a commercial complex. Since many of the students belonged to business or political families, the security of the school was tight, and no one could enter without permission. Jacob had spent his whole life in this city, but it was his first time stepping into this famous school. Following the direction signs, Jacob had no trouble finding the building where the meeting was supposed to be conducted. He entered the building and asked a student the way to Sophie's homeroom. As soon as Jacob entered the classroom, he attracted a lot of attention since he was too young. There were a couple of parents already in the room, and they all turned to look at Jacob questionably. On each desk, there was a slip of paper with the student's name on it. Jacob spotted Sophie's name on a desk in the second row, so he walked over, pulled out the chair, and sat down. The man sitting next to him was a man in his 40s, and Jacob nodded at him in greeting. The man ignored him completely and kept typing away at his phone. Wow, rich people have no time to waste, thought Jacob. He frowned at the man and turned his face away from him. He looked around the classroom. There was the teacher's table and the whiteboard in the front, and a small bulletin board with the students' articles posted on it on the back wall. The desks and chairs were made of metal and were brand new. Jacob noticed a small metal name tag on the upper right corner of the desk, and Sophie's name was written on it. Jacob had studied all his life in a public school, not because his parents couldn't afford it, but because, as academics, they always believed in living a low-key and simple life. This was Jacob's first time inside such a luxurious high school, where each kid had their own designated desk, as if it was a workstation. Imagining the scenes that go on in the class, Jacob glanced at the name tag on the desk next to Sophie's and found that it was a girl's name. He had a petty moment where he rejoiced that the person who sat next to Sophie wasn't a guy. While he was looking around, a middle-aged woman in a suit came into the classroom and stepped in front of the parents with a binder tucked under her arm.
"Good evening, parents. I'm the senior student's class advisor."
She got straight to the point. Suddenly, she spotted a young man sitting in the classroom and asked, suspiciously,
"And you are?"
"Oh, I'm Sophie's tutor. I'm here in place of her parents. They had a very important engagement that they couldn't get out of." Jacob said.
Do you have any proof that they have sent you here?
The counselor asked immediately. She suspected that Sophie, embarrassed about her low scores, had asked a random person to attend the meeting. Some students had done such things before. One student from the middle school had asked a student from the high school to act as his parent. They were obviously caught and punished later on. Yes, I do. Here's the note written and signed by them, Jacob said, showing her the note. There was no way for the woman to test its legitimacy right away, so she reluctantly allowed it. She made a mental note to call up Sophie's parents later on to make sure they had approved of this man being here.
A tutor in the meeting. These rich parents really don't care about their children's future. They think throwing money at the school would help their daughter move ahead in life.
Sophie's teacher was displeased, but she didn't pursue the topic. After all, the other parents were waiting for the meeting to begin.
The main purpose of meeting you all today is to talk about your child's future after school and announce the midterm scores. As you all know, the kids are now in their senior year and will soon be going off to college. We must prepare them for it. They must build a solid foundation for...
Sophie's teacher began her speech to the parents. Sitting in the chair, Jacob saw the parents around him listening attentively, and he followed suit, putting on his serious face. However, he knew the class advisor was giving a cut-and-dry speech, and the purpose was to encourage the parents to take their child's education more seriously. It was Jacob's first time being in school for someone else's meeting. Seeing the anxiety on the parents' faces, Jacob suddenly thought that he would be one of them one day.
Some of you have the mistaken impression that you don't have to worry about your children's academic performances, since they would be accepted into most colleges in the state after graduating from this high school. But for that, they do still need to graduate.
Sophie's teacher continued her speech. Unlike the other parents, Jacob got bored. He lowered his head and began to quietly run through the stuff stored inside Sophie's desk drawer. There was an empty juice box, half a bag of uneaten chips, and an unopened bag of dried fruits. He also found some girly stuff besides the snacks, including a lip gloss and a hairbrush. This girl even stores food in her desk. Jacob shook his head at the thought, pushed those things aside, and tried to find out what was behind them. Sophie's teacher, who was familiar with students' little tricks, had immediately seen Jacob's act. However, she swallowed back her reprimand and continued her speech for the other parents, as he wasn't important to her anyway. She couldn't be rude to a person representing a student's parents, especially when the parents were Dracon and Helen, well-known names around town. Jacob didn't notice the class advisor looking at him and continued on with his investigation when suddenly his hand hit something intriguing. He took it out of the desk and examined it. Is this Sophie's personal diary? He thought, with a strong urge to open it.
Please subscribe to the Pocket FM YouTube channel and press the bell icon for instant notification. Check out our channel for more such exciting shows.